The resolution is, in a world characterized by gender inequality, this House would adopt an extreme feminist approach.
A good evening to you all. In a world characterized with gender inequality, this House will adopt extreme feminist approach. I'm Aaron Omara, the Faster Farmer from Tripoli. In a world characterized with gender inequality, what is gender inequality? We as the farmers, we are saying gender inequality is the unfair treatment, the unequal treatment, the giving of the unfair opportunities to the males or females based on one's gender. Now, what are these examples of the gender inequality that we have in our society today? There is gender as a basis of employment. There is gender violence. There is gender discrimination. Now, the extreme feminist approach that we want to adopt right now, what is this? The extreme feminist approach, these are the maximum, the extreme, going to the point of breaking, the breaking point, the maximum measures that you have to take to ensure that something is done. The maximum measures that favor the feminine, the maximum measures in the society that favor the female, because they are the ones who are majorly discriminated against. They are the ones who are on the underside of the gender inequality. Now, what are the examples of this extreme feminist approach that we have? We have trying, first of all, we as the sitting government, we have this time frame of 5 years that we want to adopt and implement the extreme feminist approach to curb the problem of gender inequality. Our problem here is gender inequality. How do we want to solve it? The extreme feminist approach. Now, through the past years, our status quo has been, the gender inequality is there, yes. It has been tried to be solved, yes. What methods have they used? Methods that have not changed something big. Methods that have reduced on it but have not been that efficient. Methods that have tried, that have touched on the gender inequality, but the gender inequality is still there. The gender inequality is still there, affecting the female mostly. Now, what do you do when you're pushed to the breaking point? What do you do when the measures you've been implementing have failed? You go to something extreme. That's why we as the government, through the Ministry of Labor, through the different NGOs, through the different feminist organizations, want to tell you that we are here to implement these extreme feminist approaches, these extreme measures that will ensure that the gender will be equal, the gender will be balanced, the opportunities will be fair in the shortest amount of time without making the women seem to overpower the men, without giving the women the picture that they are above the men. But we are trying to make them equal. We are creating a level ground for everything, a level ground for their rights, for their employment, and for whatever they do in their life. Now, what is this extreme feminist approach we are taking? Now, we as the government, through the Ministry of Labor, we will say every company in the country should have 50% of women as employees and 50% of men as employees. Now, this is taking it straight to what? Straight to the balancing aspect. We are making it a level ground. We are making the men 50, the women 50. That makes it very equal. We are saying that if any company that is in the country, because they have to obey us, must have 50% of men and 50% as women, just so that we can have the gender equality that we seek in our community. Now, this is extreme. Yes, we should have applied this. We are applying this to ensure that the gender equality comes first. We are not saying 60% of women and 40% of men, or 70% women and 30% men. We are saying 50-50. We make it a level ground. We make it as equal as possible to make them have the fair treatment, the fair opportunities, and the equal rights in the society. And our next argument would be, after, under every head, under every male CEO, under every male headmaster, there will be a female deputy, and after some time, this deputy will be promoted. Now, my next farmer will come and talk more on this, and I rest my case.
1. What is extreme feminism? What is extreme feminism?
Extreme feminism would have to be going to the maximum against the women. Extreme feminism.
How do you achieve justice?
What?
How do you achieve justice?
Being fair to everyone.
Do you think men who actually dominate the society can get defensive because of your approach?
Men who?
Do you think men who already dominate the society will get offending, and defensive because of your approach?
No, because our approach is making the ground level. Thank you.
going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel. If we want to make change, do we have to change the system to a level of detriment, or do we have to adjust the system? That is the question that remains in this debate today. 3 things I'm going to do in our case today. A, rebuttal of the precurrent speaker's speech. B, why don't we agree with the motion? C, our principal justification and our stakeholder analysis. To start off with a little bit of rebuttal, what do we get on the other side of the house? They come and they characterize a model. But basically the model that they characterize basically looks like status quo. That is to say, they characterize affirmative action. They did not fulfill the burden of coming to show us what radical feminism is, what these feminist movements are. They basically look like, this extremist feminism looks like A, violence, B, a sort of cancel culture, which the other side of the house doesn't describe. That is to say, they fall out of this debate here because they describe status quo and we are trying to run out of status quo. Okay, moving on, we have to first understand, where does gender inequality actually take place most? Gender inequality mostly takes place in conservative communities. That is because they are backward. That is to mean they do not achieve the level of education to help them attain these spheres. Now, what is causing extreme gender inequality in these areas? That is people's mindsets, which is due to A, religion, where religion is not really clear how some policies are, like how women should be submissive to men. It's not really clear. Or B, we could say the culture, we could say the media depicting different things that objectify women, or we could say the narratives that exist in the society. Now to move on to the other question in this debate today. Does radical feminism solve the problem in society? We have to look that we live in a male-dominated society. That is to say, males actually hold the highest power in society, and they have the highest power both class-wise and gender-wise. This has 2 implications. One, if you did in this case of commuting this kind of like inequality to these men, it will turn into a higher fight, given the fact that they have turned on their self-defense mechanisms. You are fighting these men, but you are lower than them. They have a stronger hold on society still. So basically, they are going to make your life harder. In many instances, they can even fight you back, and you face moderate remain at a worse state. But even if they didn't actually fight you back, you are more bound to fail because you implement more violence in a society, and without you can actually be well in a society if it's violent. So basically, I raise my case by saying that side negative wins this debate today because we characterize to you what this debate is supposed to be. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the presentation. Do you believe that there is gender inequality in our society?
Yes.
So do you believe that gender inequality has been in place for so long?
Yes.
So don't you think that we need another solution to overcome that problem?
But you do not give us any other solution. What you characterize is affirmative action.
You need a solution.
Thing which is existing in status quo. You do not bring to us radical feminism. You do not bring to us extremist feminism.
You said gender inequality is a problem, right?
Yes.
So you need a solution,
yes.
Right? Okay. Are men more powerful than women?
Men are depicted more powerful than women because of the narrative that exists in society on religion.
Right. So you've agreed that men are more powerful than women, and you said that there is gender inequality. Don't you think that we need a lot of power to make that gender inequality be in place?
We would have taken your stand, but you do not characterize to us any world that looks extremist. You just characterize to us current status quo.
Do you need the gender inequality in place? Do you need gender equality in place? Do you need gender equality?
Is in place.
Do you need it in place?
No.
You don't need it in place?
Yes.
So you don't want to solve the current problem. You can have your seat.
Thank you.
Resolve. In a world characterized with gender inequality, this House would adopt an extreme feminist approach. we come and say that by extreme feminist approach, we do not mean that we are belittling the men. We are actually trying to elevate the women to come to a level where we can have gender equality. They clearly come and say there is gender inequality in society. But how are we going to go about it? Even in the presence of feminist movements, even when we try to bring in men in the struggle for gender equality for women, it has failed. They tell us patience pains, but it pays. We've been patient enough. How patient can we wait? We've been patient for a long time. We want results, which they have failed to present. And this is why we come and say, let us make the status quo extreme. We do not mean we are going to degrade the men in any way. No. Because the gap between women and men in society has widened, we shall also have to make our ways extreme. It means we have to empower the feminist movements that are already in place. By this, we mean extreme. Making something extreme means we add power to it. It is adding fuel to the fire that is already existing. We did not come and at any one point say we are going to commit misandry. No, there are peaceful ways of adding fuel to the fire that is already there. We are not saying the status quo has not worked. No, it has worked. They say we have women in big offices today, but what is the percentage? The 5 or 10 women that are in big offices do not represent the 45 million women out there. There are more women suffering still. That is why we want to bring a faster way. We want to bring a mechanism that is going to give us results soon. How? If we come and make a policy that says in every organization, recruitment should be 50-50 between the men and the women. Are we degrading the men? No. What is the problem in the status quo? Gender inequality. We are not degrading the men, but we are also uplifting the women. That means if we have 50-50 employment, then where is the gender inequality? Nowhere. Because we are having them at the same level. Isn't that what gender equality means? We said we shall empower the feminist movements. Yes, they are there. They've tried to work. But because they do not have enough funds, most of them are personal, they are private. Let us come and make a policy that gives them finance so that they can hold rallies whenever they want. They can come out and spread whatever information they want to spread. That means we shall be having equality. We shall not be having women over men or men over women. We shall be equal. Isn't that what gender equality is about? Gender inequality is in so many forms. There's gender inequality in families. But if you are content, if you know women and men are working, we are the same rate, why wouldn't we be equal? There would be no reason. That means if we come and empower the feminist movement and we also make a policy that recruits both men and women equally, we shall have gender equality. Thank you.
Number one, how is your model different from status quo?
We are making the status quo extreme, not letting it remain the same.
What do you describe to be extreme?
By extreme, we mean adding in more fuel to the fire that is already there.
Give me examples of the extreme you talk about.
More empowerment, more financing of the feminist movement, and making a policy that makes offices to recruit women and men.
What is the extreme feminist approach?
I would appreciate it if you had given me time to answer your question.
What is the extreme feminist approach?
It means by extreme feminist approach, we are going to add in more energy, more finance, more marketing to this feminism.
Clearly failed arithmetic.
Thank you.
I'd like a clarification. Is it 3 or 4 minutes?
Okay, I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, in this debate, I'm going to do two things. Firstly, give you a rebuttal and show you why all the measures we got from proposition won't work. And secondly, give you the main reason and what causes gender inequality and how it solves it best. So from first speech to second speech, we have got over like 3 measures. The first one they want to do is they want to use the Ministry of Labor so that every company should have 50, like a 50-50 thing. Number one, how is that extreme? You're doing 50, that is equal. If it was extreme, it would be 70, 100. So by the time you go 50-50, that is basically equal, whereby you fail on your side. Secondly, she comes and tells us they want to add fuel on the fire. Okay, what does adding fuel to the fire look like? How is it different from status quo? They want to empower women. Currently, women are being empowered. How is it different? They do not tell us that, whether they give us claims and leave them hanging, right? They come and tell us, they want to create more women and give them finance, all those things. Number one, basically what I understood from their policy was they want to create a system whereby these women can actually get better jobs. But panel, understand that gender inequality is not only based on jobs. It goes down to things like rape, objectifying women, men having this mentality they are more powerful. So they need to show us how giving women more jobs is going to change the rape situation or the mindset that men are more powerful than women. That's some clarity we do not get there. Firstly, why won't their method even work in the first place? First of all, even if, let's take them by their case scenario and assume that this 50-50 thing worked. Even if you don't change the mindset of how being unfair to women is bad, even when you put all these women in place, they will still be unfair to these women. That is, they'll mistreat them at their jobs, right? So basically, what they say won't work. Even if it does, we feel that at a point in time when you don't change the mindset, it won't work. What my first speaker came and told you is, clearly showed you how they feel on their burden and what they were supposed to do. Allow me to show you what we want. On our side of the house, we want to change this mindset in society that makes people have this sort of inequality narrative. How? Because at a point in time where let's say like you're supposed to be dominant or anything, women are just trash, you're not going to, even when they get more jobs, you still mistreat these women, right? Our side of the house advocates for 2 things, right? We want to educate people. When you educate people, at least they'll have a better understanding. Secondly, we'll use religion and culture. Why? Because religion and culture have the biggest influence on people, right? So the moment you use religion to influence people, that is, churches preach, please, mistreating women is bad because most people listen to religion. Or even the culture. If you change culture, we understand that if you change culture, we believe then that at a point in time it has like a very big influence. At a point in time where it has like a very big influence on people, it will be much easier to change this narrative, right? Let's compare the 2 sides, right? Our side of the house goes down to the bottom group and changes these people's mindset, right? And secondly, even that's not the case, we achieve some sort of matriarchy. How is this? A woman can do anything. A woman can do anything. Even if we don't, at the end of the day, even if we don't achieve equality, we believe we achieve matriarchy. How? We adopt a system where we now tell women, because now you're changing people's mindset, leave alone mindset only for the women, only for the men, but also for the women. You give them this single, guess what, you can do what a man can do. So instead of sitting at home and being beaten by a man, a man, they can actually go and work in this this mindset. Understand, panel, that in conservative societies, women already have this sort of mentality that, men are supposed to be dominant there and then we're supposed to be under them, which is much harder to achieve. So even when you offer them these job opportunities, they will not come and probably adopt to this. Why then do we win this debate? Number one, we tackle the root problem of this thing, which is a mindset. Secondly, we show you whatever alternatives they bring won't work. Proud to oppose.
Second negator, thank you very much. Do you believe that if I had an apple, good evening, madam. Do you believe that if I had an apple and I cut it in half, I gave you the half, I took the half, is that being equal?
Pardon?
If I had an apple and I cut it in half, I gave you the other half, I took the other half, is that being equal?
But if I have a mindset,
is that being equal, please?
If I have a mindset, you're not supposed to get the half.
She's avoiding the question. Do you believe there are non-believers in the society?
Pardon?
Are there people who don't believe in any religion in the society?
Yes, but
thank you very much.
Culture,
do you believe that
education,
besides all your trials to curb gender inequality, there is still gender inequality in the society?
Please be more clear.
In your other trials, to curb gender inequality. Is it still there in the society?
No, it has not been emphasized.
There is no gender inequality.
Oh, there is gender inequality
Yes,
in our
thank
society.
you very much. Do you believe that if one of your solutions to a problem fails, you go harder on it?
You go what?
You go harder, you go more extreme, you maximize.
You maximize. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. I rest my case.
In a world characterized with gender inequality, this House will adopt an extreme feminist approach. Our dear judges, in our today's resolution, we are having a problem, and of which a problem, every problem in the society actually needs a solution. Now, we come up with the problem in the society being gender inequality, and actually, they agree that actually there's a problem that needs solving. Now, today we are clashing majorly on a few things, of which they are very, very, very necessary. Now, we clash first of all on the problem in the resolution. We are very, very disappointed with the negators. First of all, I asked the affirmative, do you believe that there is gender inequality? She says, yeah. I asked, is it a problem that needs a solution? She says, yeah, it needs a solution. Then I'm like, now, if it needs a solution, it means that there have been things in the society that have failed to actually go against gender inequality. So we need extreme feminists. Now, the same person, I asked her a question that, do you now believe that gender inequality should be eradicated? Actually, she says no. Now, we are totally confused of what they are talking about. Then another, we talk of extreme feminists. Now, that's why they depend on to attack us. Now, extreme feminists, we see that we have a problem. Our second affirmer clearly says that extreme feminists, what is the meaning of extreme? Actually, we are putting a lot of fuel in the fire that is low, because we see that there is a problem, and that problem has been in place. We actually need a solution by extremitizing this feminist group, and we clarify that actually we extremitizing this. We are not going away with the men. Actually, we need something like equality whereby they can coordinate. Then the major point they talk about is they talk of men are more powerful. That has been their major argument. They talk of men are powerful, therefore this gender inequality will not be possible. Remember, I first asked them, is there a problem? They agree. I said, does it deserve a solution? They say yes. Now they again come back, they're like, that same problem that is there, it is too big, we cannot solve it. Is that a reality? Are we now going to sit there and just watch at the problem, or actually we need a solution? Because they already agreed that actually a solution is needed. So therefore, we need to extremitize and work on gender inequality, which is the major problem. Now, we come on and clearly say that we clearly give our views. We are like, every company should at least employ 50% of the women. In that company, there should be gender equality, whereby the women, the percentage of women that are employed is equal to that of the men. They actually go on and try to say that, do we mean better jobs? Of course we do. We are trying to create equality. We go on and talk of empowerment, empowering woman emancipation, but actually they don't come and talk anything about our view, which means that actually they agree that this House will actually adopt extreme feminists. Then they come up with a point that they talk of violence, that we talked of violence. We didn't speak about violence in any way. That was there, those were just their assumptions. Now, my first speaker comes on and asks them, is going extreme solving gender inequality? Actually, they say no. But then we have clearly showed you that actually going extreme, we are putting fuel into the fire, so that these women that are low, whereby having gender inequality, actually we can empower them, and there is gender equality in the society. That is our major argument. And our dear judges, allow me to rest my case.
Okay, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, to clearly analyze this debate or judge what this debate is about, you first need to understand what extreme feminism actually looks like. We tell you extreme feminism actually looks like whereby these feminist movements actually resort to behaviors that actually reach the limit, i.e. they do things that get the most attention. On their side of the house, they say, oh, we're going to bring about extreme feminism whereby we're going to add in more financing and like 50% of people should be women. This doesn't get as much attention as to the definition as to how extreme feminism should actually look like. Regardless, let's first analyze what they say. They say, oh, we're going to empower women. One, no analysis as to how they're going to empower women. Two, they say, oh, 50% of people in businesses are actually going to be women. Not panel that the majority of the people who dominate the society are already men. They give us no way as to how they're going to give an incentive to the owners of these companies to actually give like them 50%, to like actually put a role whereby 50% of the employees should actually be women. But panel, regardless, let's actually look at what their model should look like. This actually looks like violence, i.e. you are violent towards men or violent destruction of property to a point whereby you actually take the law into your own hands. What does our model actually look like from first pitch? We tell you we want to tackle gender inequality from its roots, i.e. what are the causes? Two things. One, narratives, e.g. like cultural narratives or religious narratives. But then also two, uneven access to education, which actually affects the mindsets of people, especially in conservative societies. We tell you we reform this by, i.e. clarity of ambiguous religious texts. For example, in Christianity, whereby Paul says in the Bible, women should be submissive to men. People automatically interpret it as women should be slaves to men. But then also we say that we are going to attempt the influence of like we're going to use the influence of religious leaders, given that they have an immense contribution towards the behavior of people in the society. Three, we also want to use the influence of cultural leaders as well. This is what we are going to use as our strategic approach to actually tackle gender inequality on our side of the house. Status quo has failed because they do not prioritize strategic advocacy. Our model is that we are going to prioritize it. That's where they already fall out. One, why their model doesn't work on their side of the house, i.e. why extreme feminism does not work at all. One, it paints a bad image already towards the feminism movement, i.e. the feminism movement is going to be depicted as violent. We already told that the majority of these people already have a bad attitude towards like feminism. They already have patriarchal ideologies. To tackle feminism, most of these people already dominate the societies. If you want to actually get buy-in from the people who dominate the societies to make your movement successful, you need to get their consent. You need to like buy into their ideologies. They already fall out because they do not actually get that. But then two, we tell you that it slows down the progress. Men automatically get defensive, i.e. hostile sexism, in a sense whereby you are violent towards them just because you want your rights to be had, instead of approaching them and like through like addressing gender inequality through its actual roots, i.e. the mindsets, they automatically become defensive once you get defensive towards them. At the end of the day, this slows down the progress of the feminism movement. Three, this doesn't actually solve the problem at the end of the day. As I said to you, how men are automatically going to become defensive, and it already paints a bad image towards the feminism movement. You are less likely to get donors on your side of the house. I already tell you how most of like the society is already dominated by male individuals. You need to get buy-in from these societies for your feminist movements to actually become successful. We tell you two things, as I already stated, two things that actually bring about this sort of gender inequality. One, the narratives, but then also uneven education opportunities. Analyze where most inequality is found. It is found in like conservative societies whereby the majority, maybe like the silent transmitters of patriarchy, are women who haven't received education, i.e. the aunts or like the mothers who do not believe that girl children should actually receive education. We want to target or like solve gender inequality through our strategic advocacy, which is actually going to target even the silent transmitters of patriarchy who are women themselves. Four, extreme feminism doesn't actually recognize the innocent from the guilty, i.e. some women at the end of the day are going to justify their unjust acts using extreme feminism. They are just going to be tormenting men. They're just going to be killing other men, inclusive the innocent men on their side of the house. They do not recognize this. They already fall out of this debate. Panel, at the end of this debate, you should recognize that our side of the house actually caters for feminism more. We achieve our goal faster. We win this debate. Thank you.
I want to thank you so much for the not very good audience, but I'll take what you offered. So the judges are going to move out for deliberation, but I'm going to hand over to Eddie. Eddie will introduce himself. He's a very big person, by the way. So there you go.